I've had some clients or potential clients say like, man, I downloaded this free software. I swept my room, and then here's the frequency response. Look at these dips and peaks. Like, I need to fix that. And one of my first questions is like, well, how are your mixes translating? And they'll say, oh, pretty good. Like, I never get any complaints. And then I'm like, well, we're done here. We don't, if you fixate too much, I mean, obviously I'm an engineer by degree, and I love testing data, and I love to really dig into that sort of thing. And I want to get the flattest frequency response that we can in these mix rooms. But at the end of the day, it all matters in how it's translating. And so if you've learned the room, and if you've done things well and it's translating, then if it's not broke, don't fix it, that type of thing.
So here's a question for you then.
Okay.
I guess if you're, with my little knowledge of all of this, if you're building like a space from scratch for somebody, like if I was coming to you, like I don't have a studio.
Yeah.
Would the approach then be, I imagine the approach would be you want as flat of a room as possible because that person has never sat in that room before. But is it a different approach? Like if you come to somebody like me who's sat in a room for 11 years,
Sure.
and clearly my room is not perfect.
Yeah. I think that the flatter the frequency response, the better things are going to be, because what and we haven't measured your room or anything, but if there are inconsistencies and peaks and dips in the frequency response, and you've been in there for a long time, sometimes you can just account for that because you've learned the room, and now if you were to then go into a room that's more flat, you might have a little bit of the same learning curve to It's like, oh wow, in the past, like let's say you had a 6 or 7 dB dip at 60 hertz in your current space. I'm making this up, but and you're constantly at first you'd probably have constantly boost the kick drum a little bit more than you needed to, and then you realized, wow, all my mixes are really kick drum heavy when I take them out of here. I need to dial that back a little bit, but you've learned that over time. And so if you moved into a new space that was super flat, you might dial back on the kick drum because that's what you're used to doing, but that's not what that room exhibits.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it's always easier when you have a flatter response because there's less things to learn. Because sometimes we do a test of a room and there's 7 or 8 really major problems with it, and having to learn each one of them, like you're just doing like audio gymnastics in that room, and you're just like constantly trying to fix things. Whereas if you start off with a flatter response and you're just everything you're going to do, you can trust it and that it's going to translate.
That makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. I sometimes make some sense.
That's also frightening if I were to ever go to another room.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you kind of have to rethink things. And I mean, I've seen some commercial studios that, just some amazing work comes out of there, but it's because those engineers have learned that room, because acoustically they probably aren't that great, but if you're good and I think it's talent and time. Like if you have talent, you have good ears, and you make good decisions, and you have enough time in the room to be able to learn them, then sometimes you can get around them. Sometimes people, they don't have that type of talent, and they don't have that type of time, and they need some help on that front. And that's where treating a room and getting it flat can be really nice.